Welcome back, guys, to another episode. We've got today Zacian on the list. Zacian newly unbanned from the Pokemon Ranked online, and he's such a cool Pokemon. A lot of things to do with him, and he's a little on the OP side. He's got some really good stats, really good moves, and just really good resistances too. So let's go ahead and take a look at this Pokemon here. Before we jump in, I just want to say I apologize if I sound a little congested. I've got a little cold right now, so if I'm a little different than normal, that's why. All right, let's take a look. So starting out with his stat spread here, we've got defense and special defense both rocking a 115. Very solid defensive number there. Speed 138 and attack 130. Special attack is 80, not what we're going to focus on today. And his HP is 92, very solid HP stat. So overall, he's got really good solid stat spreads. Now the thing is, when you give him his Rusted Sword iconic item, his stats will actually jump. So his speed stat will go from 138 to 148, netting a plus 10 increase, and his attack will go from 130 to 170. That is a huge increase, giving you a plus 40 to his physical attack stat. That is actually insane. That is amazing, and he hits like just a Mack truck coming at you at 120 miles an hour. So this is a really good Pokemon offensively, plus he's got some good bulk as well. The other thing when you give him the Rusted Sword is his typing actually changes. He goes from a mono fairy type to a fairy and steel typing, which really increases his resistances, which we're going to look at shortly here. But that's a really good type combination, having that fairy and steel type combo together. All right, let's go ahead and look at his special ability. This is the Intrepid Sword. This is a really good ability because it can actually offset Intimidate users, and this is going to raise the attack stat of the Pokemon by +1 when it enters the battle. So if you enter, you have him on your starting lineup, and they drop something like an Incineroar out, and the Intimidate goes off, your Intrepid Sword goes off, you're sitting at a neutral attack stat. You're not negative, you're not positive, you're neutral, and you can kind of go about your business. If they don't have an Intimidate user to start the lineup, now you're sitting at a +1, and you've got a lot of attack power behind this Pokemon at that 170. Even if you're not wearing the Rusted Sword, even if you're just rocking like a Life Orb or something, you still have a 130 base stat. So he has a crazy amount of hitting power that he can put into your enemy's Pokemon to just make them suffer. Let's go ahead and move on to the resistances. So in his Hero of Many Battles form, this is the form without the Rusted Sword equipped. He will be resisting Fighting, Bug, and Dark type Pokemon, and he will have a 50% resistance on this, a half resistance. And these are pretty good typings too, because you see these quite a bit in ranking. A lot of these, especially fighting types, there's a lot of fighting moves out there. So definitely keep these in mind, especially when you have got things like Urshifu running around. So you could actually resist a lot of attacks from him here. So this is amazing to have. These are good. It's a shame this form doesn't have more resistances, but 3 isn't bad, especially considering he still has an immunity to the dragon typing as well. So this is great. He's technically got 4 different resistances. 1 is an immunity, and dragon, there's definitely some dragons that hit really hard, Garchomps, Dragapults, and so on. So this is a good immunity to have. Now moving on, we can look at his weaknesses. He has 2 weaknesses, so his resistances definitely outweigh his weaknesses, always a positive thing. Now his weaknesses are in Poison and Steel. Again, this is for the Hero of Many Battles form, the form without the Rusted Sword. Now there are some ways or reasons why you would use this form, and we'll get to that a little later. Now Poison typing, not the most predominant. There's still some poison attacks out there, but Steel is where you're going to really want to be careful because of things like Metagross. So be careful of a Steel type. Maybe you're doing a bait and trap and you're trying to pull a Steel type out so you could do something fun, something cool, something tricky, but just keep in mind a Steel attack will hurt this Pokemon pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and look at the Crowned Sword form. So this is going to be the form where he has the sword. He's going to have that sword in his mouth. He's got the Rusted Sword equipped, and he has a crazy amount of resistances in this form. It's 9 different resistances, just normal resistances. We've got normal, flying, rock, grass, psychic, ice, dark, and fairy, all going to be reduced by 50%, and bug, he's only going to take 1/4 of the damage. So this is a great resistance set for a Pokemon to have. It's pretty crazy to have that many resistances. And then he actually still has some immunities. Not only does he still have the dragon typing from the hero form, but he also has poison resistance immunity now too. So that is really cool. You knocked off 2 different typings that are now completely immune, plus the other 9. This is really, really good. Now, if you look at his weaknesses, he still only has 2. So he's got 11 total resistances with immunities and only 2 weaknesses. That is a really good comparison by number. Now, the weaknesses here aren't great, though. So you've got ground and fire. Both of those typings are typings that are predominantly found in the ranked competitive arena. There's a lot of fire attacks, a lot of ground attacks. I mean, Incineroar alone can punish Zacian a little bit. So be careful with what you're coming against. Those are popular typings. Just keep that in mind, but for the most part, he has a lot of resistances and can do a lot with it. Hey guys, if you're liking this video or it's helping you at all, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel out. Also, feel free to come by the Twitch channel where we do mostly Pokemon Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Lots of raids, shiny hunting, battles, you name it. But let's go ahead and get back to the rest of the video. All right, let's go ahead and get into the first guide here. So the first one, we are going to do a pretty straightforward build, and we're going to maximize his 2 best stats, the attack and the speed stat. So we're going to really beef those up and give 252 into attack and 252 to speed. Now, the other 4 EVs you can put wherever you want. I just threw defense here. You can put HP. It's all going to be about the same with just that 1 increase. So go ahead and put it whatever you prefer. We are going to jump down to the ability item in nature, and we are going to have the Intrepid Sword ability. Obviously, it's his only one. But we can go with either Jolly or Adamant here, whichever one you want to focus on more, whether that's the speed with Jolly or the physical attack power with Adamant. Neither one is wrong here. I personally picked the Jolly, and I think a lot of people are probably going to pick the Jolly, but Adamant isn't necessarily wrong either. But we are going to have the Rusted Sword here, so we are going to be using the crowned version of Zacian. And that being said, we are going to have Behemoth Blade on here, which is actually Iron Head. So you want to put Iron Head on here, and when you have the Rusted Sword, that'll transform itself into Behemoth Blade. Other than that, we're going to have Play Rough, and then for fighting, you can do either Close Combat or Sacred Sword. Either one is good. Close Combat obviously going to give you more attack damage out, but you are going to get the stat reductions on yourself afterwards. Sacred Sword going to do a little less damage, but no stat reductions, so a very safe option there. And then also under that, we have Wild Charge or Protect, again, based off of your playstyle. Me personally, in this case, I like to have a lot of coverage with his high attack stat, with the Rusted Sword and everything, so I probably would go with Wild Charge here. Protect is also nice, though, if you know how to use it properly, and you can kind of bait people into attacking you, wasting a turn with Protect. It does have a lot of merit to use as well, and I know our battle mod for the Twitch channel, Ali, is a big proponent of Protect. Now, the one thing I will say about Sacred Sword is you're not going to lose any stats using it, and you do a little less damage. However, it will ignore the target's defense and evasion stat changes. Now, evasion, not so much of an issue with competitive right now, especially with Dynamax and Gmax and whatnot. Nobody's really using double teams or anything. However, defense increases, especially with Dynamax moves and whatnot. This is a big thing, so you might want to consider Sacred Sword just for the fact that it does ignore defense. So that is definitely an option for you to consider here. Okay, this next set is going to be a little less traditional for Zacian. We are going to look at using either a Choice Band or Choice Scarf, again, based off of whatever your team composition needs and or your play style. So the Choice Band is obviously going to add a lot more damage, physical damage, to whatever your attacks that you're using, and the Choice Scarf would be boosting your speed like crazy, so you can really outspeed almost any threat on the field. So if we look at the EVs, we're going to be doing 252 into attack, 252 into speed. That is a very kind of stock thing for Zacian that you'll see a lot. Again, the other EVs, toss it wherever you like. But we are going to be using that Choice Band and Scarf. And again, you could do Jolly or Adamant for your nature. It doesn't really matter. It's just whichever item you pick, that's going to be the nature you pick. So if you do Choice Band, you're going to want Adamant. Choice Scarf, you're going to want a Jolly, and so on and so forth. As far as the move set here, we are going to have Iron Head and Play Rough. Those are going to be the stab moves again. We aren't going to have Behemoth Blade because it doesn't have the Rusted Sword on, so it's not going to transform into Behemoth Blade, but you do still have access to Iron Head. It's a good stab type move for him. And then we are going to have Close Combat. We're just going to do Close Combat on this, seal the deal with it, and Wild Charge. Now, the reason that we're going to do Close Combat and not Sacred Sword here is because if you do a Choice Band, you're going to really want to maximize the amount of damage that you're getting out, and Close Combat is the best or highest physical fighting move that Zacian can get. With 120 damage, that's kind of really where you want to be with this. And the same thing with Wild Charge. You will take some recoil damage with the Wild Charge here, but it is a super strong electric type move, so this is a great move to have on your Zacian. Okay, so this last set is definitely by far the least traditional out of all of them. We are going to mix it up a lot here. This is more for fun, but there is a lot that you can do and kind of put some really cool team compositions together with some fun Pokemon. So not necessarily something I'm going to recommend to use all the time, but if you really want to trick some people up and do something different with Zacian, then this might be the one for you. So with the EVs, we're definitely going to go different here with Defense 204, Special Defense 200, and HP 106. So we're really working on his bulk here to make him beefy, and he's already got good base stats for this, so if you're adding these EVs in there, he's really going to be able to take some hits. Now drop down to ability item and nature. We are going to do the careful nature, so we're working on those defenses again. And as far as the item, you can use the assault vest or the Babiri berry. Now there's some other items in there that you could use too, but this is kind of where I'm at here, and I'll explain the berry in a moment. Now the assault vest, obviously this is going to really work on his special defenses and make him super tanky when it comes to special attacks, and he's going to really be able to take a lot of damage in while he's able to punish damage out. So he's going to be able to stay in the battle a lot longer and still do a lot of damage as well. Now the Babiri berry, this is going to reduce the damage from a super effective steel type hit onto this Pokemon. So you're going to be able to not worry about one steel type attack. And this is really only under the circumstance if you're fighting a heavy steel Pokemon like Metagross. Metagross is really the primary threat to this Pokemon in my opinion, and the Babiri berry will kind of coax that Metagross into attacking you, and you'll be able to eat that attack, live through it, and buy yourself another turn to kill that huge threat Metagross on the field. You've got Sacred Sword on here, so you'll be able to do damage to that Metagross, so you'll definitely be able to do something to it, but this will definitely coax him to use that attack on you, and you'll be able to survive it, surprisingly, and really punish him for that mistake. Now with the moveset, we're looking at Iron Head, Play Rough, and Wild Charge, as well as Sacred Sword, which we already mentioned. Iron Head, again, we don't have Rusted Sword on, so there's that. Play Rough is the other stab move. Wild Charge, we've already talked about, careful with the recoil, and Sacred Sword, just a good attack to have. Now, since we're not working on his physical attack stats, we're not going to put on close combat, so he's going to take those stat reductions. We're going to keep that away, work on ignoring defenses, and having that nice coverage fighting type move. So again, if you're going to go with the Babiri berry, it's very situational, and you kind of have to be lucky. Right now, current time, Metagross is being used about 8.5% of the time in the competitive arena, so it's not a crazy amount of usage. It is a good amount of usage. I think he's ranked 21 right now as of today, the 23rd of January, but he's definitely used, and he's definitely a threat, so that could be something you want to do there. Me personally, I'm going to go with the Assault Vest for this build, and I'm going to pair him with somebody that has coaching. In this case, we'll just say Verizon, and use coaching on the Zacian in turn 1, give him a +1 defense. He'll have a +2 physical attack because he comes in with Intrepid Sword, gets a +1. Coaching is going to give him a +1. So +1 defense, +2 physical attack, and he's super tanky when it comes to his special defense anyways, and so he's actually a much bigger threat with this build than you would actually think he is. If your coaching Pokemon is still surviving, Zacian hasn't been wiped out, use coaching again, now he's at +2 and +3, that is crazy. That is a lot of damage going to be going out. Now maybe your Verizon goes down, and maybe you have something like a Comfey in the back, and Comfey comes out and heals the Zacian. There's so much you can do with this to be super annoying and have a lot of fun with it, that it's kind of off the chart, but it's actually a really fun build to play with, and making the team composition for this is a lot of fun. It really is. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out. That's going to be it for the video. If you have any really cool Zacian builds, or any ideas or thoughts or comments, please put them down below. I respond to all comments. Love to hear them. Or pop into the Discord, come over to the Twitch, let's have a chat, and maybe have a battle. I'm always open for that as well. But thanks again for hanging out, guys. I really do appreciate it. Until the next time, make sure you guys take care, and I'll see you then.